another episode of Bass Fishing for Noobs here on the Paddle and Fin podcast. I'm your host, Sean, and I'm proud and happy to welcome back Miss Susie Q.
What's up, everybody?
So Susie has been super crazy busy with lots of interesting things. So we figured for tonight's show, we could just kind of recap kind of what she's been up to and all the cool things that she's been doing. We have a few pictures that we can share. And yeah, so welcome back, Susie. How you been?
Thanks. It's been a wild and crazy, maybe a little shorter than a month. I can't even remember. Like, things just went by so fast. But let's see here. So I know towards the end of August, I had my KBL championship, which was up on Turtle-Flambeau up in way northern Wisconsin. That was quite the trip as well. Northern woods, Wisconsin, out in the middle of nowhere, beautiful, clear, starry skies. It was awesome. I stayed in an Airbnb with I think like 7 other people. I think there's 6 or 7 of us that stayed there. I mean, we had a blast. It was awesome. Caught decent amount of fish. I didn't really get on them until like the last day, but it worked out in my favor. Just because they had like a little thing to where whoever made the biggest jump in placement from day 1 to day 2, which happened to be me. I jumped up, what was it, 15 or 16 places, something like that. Because like day 1, I had only gotten, was it 2 fish or something like that? Yeah, I can't remember. Day 1,
Okay.
yeah, day 1 was when my the belt on my drive decided to snap on me again, so that was fun. And so, I just kind of had to make do. But yeah, I'd only got 2 fish, I believe. Yeah, 2 or 1. I don't even remember. But then day 2, I came back swinging, and I got probably, I think I got like 7 fish that day, which got me up to like 8 or 9. So it was a different format of a tournament. And we instead of doing 5 fish day 1 and then another 5 fish day 2, we did it to where you could catch 10 fish for like both days. So like day 1, if you caught 10 fish, they counted towards your total. And then day 2, if you caught more fish, it would cull anything you had from day 1. So that way, people who might have not done so well on day 1 could come back and make a comeback on day 2. So it was a very interesting format, which I was in favor of, because obviously, I made a big comeback on day 2, and it jumped me up quite a bit. And then I won a 100 amp hour 12 volt battery, which those things are pretty pricey. So
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome in itself. So I was like, okay, definitely worth the trip and everything. But it was a great event overall. Weather actually wasn't that bad. It was during the hottest week of August, basically, because back home, I think that Thursday I had looked, and it said it felt like 120 degrees, and I was just like, oh yeah, no. So like I sent a screenshot to Adam, and it said it was like 64 or something like that up where I was. So I was like, oh, I hear it's hot down in Illinois right now. So yeah, we escaped that super hot week. And then shortly after that, so I got home from that on a Monday, and then that Tuesday I had to drive down to Springfield for a meeting for work, and then I was at work normally for that 4 days, and then we came up on Labor Day weekend. I worked one day on the 5th, and then I drove down to southern Indiana for the women's fishing event. And so that was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we had just like a little kind of get together breakfast on Sunday morning. But it was actually a really good time this year. We had a much smaller group, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It was a lot more intimate, and we could spend a lot more time with the ladies one on one, which was, pretty good. Because, I mean, our biggest event that we've had, has been 50 women, and that can be a lot for just, the couple of women who help run it and volunteer and all that other stuff. So we were down at it was like the Sportsman's Farm or something like that. I have to look up the name again, but it was like 2 minutes from Caesar's Hotel and Casino in southern Indiana. So like we had lodging there, and we would just drive back and forth. So it's pretty nice. And so we get there, we meet and greet. Obviously, being a helper from the beginning, I helped with setup and everything and whatnot. Got to meet a couple new ladies. There were a lot of familiar faces there too. So it was really great to just have kind of like that smaller atmosphere to just, have a lot better time to connect with everybody, mingle with everyone, and just be able to feel like I was able to give attention to each lady that needed it. And so day one was I know Mel talked about CPR tournaments. Christine Fisher was there. She gave a seminar on using a fish finder, how to kind of understand what you're looking at, what you're seeing, and then talked about, social media in a sense, as far as, how to integrate yourself onto social media. And one of the biggest takes from that, and especially for our listeners who are, maybe on the fence about social media or just not sure about it, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to just, be you. Don't try to put on this barrage of like, like fake or whatever. Just be you and just be yourself. What you might think nobody would want to watch is probably what people are going to want to watch. Christine was saying that she was super surprised at how people really wanted to see like her fumbles and the tournaments that don't always go well for her. They want to see and want to know that it's not always about winning or cashing a check or anything like that. It's also about those times on the water where maybe you're just not able to put all the pieces together and how to learn from that. But the biggest thing is just to be yourself, and then also how to reach out to some of the sponsors as well, because a lot more, and especially in this time and age where social media just drives everything, you kind of have to figure out a way to make yourself stand out among the thousands of other people that might be trying to connect or contact the sponsor that you're going after as well. So, definitely a lot of good food for thought with that. And then afternoons were mostly time on the water to kind of show some different techniques and skills and whatnot. Day two, I felt like was a kind of like a more of like me teaching everybody type of day. So spent the whole morning doing a lot of seminars on choosing rods and reels, what line, what ratio reels to pair with things, understanding what action and what oh my gosh, power. There we go. What power rods to choose, for which techniques, how to know when to use like braid versus mono versus fluoro. just kind of all those different things. Because, a lot of these ladies, some still may fish from the bank and some still may only just have like a spinning rod. And so they're completely clueless as to what the proper gear is and be like, this says like 7mh. Like, what the heck does that mean? So helping them understand, just the different terminology and what for one thing, and then not only explaining but like also showing them as well. We had like a big screen TV there that we could use, and me, I know a lot of people learn from visualization, so like I found some YouTube videos that kind of showed and explained the way a rod's power and action works and that type of thing, just to help with reinforcing some of those different knowledges and skills. And then the this hasn't necessarily been like advertised yet, but I pre-planned this, and so I'm also like the safety person too, because if you guys don't know, like I have a lot of experience with like safety things. So part of my safety demonstration this year was I purposefully got a self-embedded hook into my leg. So I know people are like, wait a second, how does that work?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I did was I took a whopper plopper. I took the front hook off because everybody knows how sticky whopper plopper hooks are. I mean, like, yeah, I catch them all the time as it is. And so I cut off 2 of the 3 treble hooks on the back hook, and I would just kind of like smack on my leg until it would finally go. And then, of course, I mean, some people who are listening, this may not be the best for you if you're kind of queasy or whatever, but, I had to push it in there to embed it, and of course, some of the ladies are just like standing there like, what? And they're like, well, doesn't that hurt? And I'm like, I promise you, this doesn't really hurt. It just feels like a weird pressure. So, a lot of them were just dumbfounded that I could even do that. And they're just like, oh God, how can you do that to yourself? And I'm like, I promise it doesn't even hurt. Like, it doesn't even faze me. I've had worse things happen to me. So, and so because I really wanted to, show them, okay, what you do in the event you get an embedded hook. Because sometimes, and I've had it happen to me, I've got an embedded hook in my right hand and I'm right-handed and just been like kind of SOL because I didn't have split ring pliers and I was in the middle of nowhere. So I'm like, okay, one, you want to always make sure you have the tools that you need while you're out on the water, and making sure that you also have a pair of they're like they're on Tackle Warehouse. I can't remember the exact name of them, but they're like hook clippers. So like they can literally cut through like the bends in the hook, so that way you can get 2 of the 3 treble hooks cut off, so that way you don't embed yourself again or are at risk for catching on other things. So anyway, so I showed them how to take it off of the split ring and everything, making sure to emphasize make sure you keep the hook kind of secure because you don't want it wiggling around. You might cause more injury type of thing while you're doing that. And then show them the trick of, pushing down on the eye of the hook and then just taking whatever line you have available to you at the time and just pulling it right out, And a lot of people were amazed, but it kind of got ruined a little bit because the previous day, Amy, oh my gosh, I can't remember her last name. Starts with a B. She's from Florida. And she was ironically fishing with a whopper plopper. And I think it got stuck in a bush or something. And she was pulling it out of the tree and it came at her. And I think she stuck her hand up and boom, it embedded right into her hand. And so I didn't know any of this had went on. And all of a sudden I hear somebody yelling, Susie, you want some real on the water education you can use for your class tomorrow? And I'm like, maybe, depends. They're like, well, we need your help regardless. So I go over there, and I'm just like, oh man, what happened now? And sure enough, the poor gal is, sitting there in the kayak like, what do I do? She's got a full whopper plopper stuck in her hand. It was only one barb, but I mean, it was in there pretty good. And so I was just like, it's okay. I got you. I got you. So, I carefully, went to work and everything, and was able to get it out, relatively unscathed in a sense. And let's see here. I'm going to see if I can actually share this here in a sec. So Wendy Biles, she is from Florida as well. She's like crazy good with like social media. Like I need to have like a sit down session with her as well. But she was recording everything that was going on. And then 5 minutes later, she had like a video created and everything. I was like, how the heck did you do that? And she's like, I don't know. I just kind of self-taught myself. I'm like, you're going to have to help me with this, because trying to edit GoPro footage, I'm just like, how do you know what to transition? How do you know what music to use or anything like that? She's just like, oh no, I'll tell you, I'll show you. I'm like, okay. So anyway, so for our viewers who might be watching, so let's see if I can get this to. So if you can see it, bloop. I pulled it. So there it is before. Yep, it was real quick. And then bloop, just popped it right out.
Wow.
I mean, she got it good. She got it good. Yeah. So she was a trooper, and I was able to get it out mostly unscathed and everything. But yeah, it was a great on the water learning experience at the same time too. But yeah, it was a good time, and we're pretty sure that the owners, definitely were full of bass stories because they kept on saying, oh yeah, we've had guys pull 8-pounders out of some of these lakes before, and the biggest fish that was caught was maybe a 16-inch fish. The rest of them were just short little dinks, but they had big catfish in there. A couple of ladies caught some big catfish. So regardless, it was still a good time. I think everybody at least caught something. They had big crappie in there too, which were pretty nice. And then I came home that Sunday. And then let's see here. Today is what this I don't even know what day it is right now. I'm so off on the days. So yeah, it was a week ago I drove home, and then this past Monday I actually had to go into work. I was originally supposed to be off, but lots of crazy stuff was going on. So I was like, yep, I'll go in on Monday, and then I'll take the following Monday, which I'll tell you why here in a second. But anywho, so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get ready and get packed to go salmon fishing. But on that Tuesday, I had to get my truck in for its, maintenance and everything. I was like, oh, maybe I'll go fishing at Banner. I had an amazing day at Banner. The topwater bite was stupid awesome. And I'm just I waited to the last very minute to pack up and leave. It was stupid. I'm like, okay, let's keep up with these good trends. And so then I was packing and all that other stuff. And then Wednesday, headed up to Manitowoc, Wisconsin, for my annual fishing or salmon fishing time, I should say. I missed out last year because I had shoulder surgery. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go up and just fish. I wasn't going to worry about competing in the salmon tournament that is hosted every year. I was just, so I just said, I'm just going to go up there. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do it at my own pace. and I got 4 of my good buddies to come down and fish with me. So Tony Lamb, Titus Dominguez, Amy, is it Acola? I think is how you say your last name. And then Chunson Choi, he also goes by JC. Most of those guys are from the KBL, and then Amy, I know from the women's event that we met at La Crosse a couple of years, because she lives in La Crosse. So she literally drove from the western side of the state, which is on the border of the Mississippi River, to the eastern side on the Lake Michigan side.
Wow.
So, you know, it was pretty awesome. So, and, you know, it was a pretty good drive for me too. It was about a 5-hour drive. And so got up there on Wednesday and went out, pretty much on my own on Thursday. And, you know, it was pretty nice and mostly calm in the morning. And it was about 10 o'clock or so. I got my first one on. If you guys haven't seen on my Facebook, I did post the video from that one on there. It was like a GoPro edit because I had to shorten it for it to, you know, process and everything. But got my first taste of, you know, the salmon screaming reel, which was, oh God, it just, if you've never hooked into a 20+ pound king salmon, let me tell you, it is the greatest experience like you could ever have. And so I was out trolling around the mouth of the harbor and decided, all right, you know, I'll go troll upriver, see what I can get. And then I got my second one. Is about, I think about noon, 11:30 or noon or something like that, hooked into that one. And that one was quite a bit bigger. The first one I caught was maybe 17 pounds. And then the second one I caught was about 22 pounds. So, yeah, I know you're just like, what?
Yeah, that's a lot of fish.
Yeah, it's a lot of fish. I should have brought my cooler with me so you could see like how full of fish my cooler is right now, because it's stupid. But it was fun regardless. So then I got off the water probably about, oh gosh, I don't even remember. Maybe might have been 2 o'clock or so. Went and processed the fish and whatnot, because they've got a processing station there where, you know, grinds them up and everything and all that stuff, which is pretty nice. And then went and got a bite to eat and went to check in at I went back to the Airbnb to get all prepped and everything for the next day. And then Tony joined me Friday morning for a little bit, and we both didn't get anything. Friday, it just seemed like it was just quiet and dead. It was just, there was not much action going on. None of the boats were catching anything in the river or whatnot. So I was like, you know, maybe it's a good thing I decided not to go into the tournament. So then everybody else gets in Friday night, and Saturday morning we get up and we're like, okay, well, we know the tournament folks are going to be launching at about 5:30. So we're like, yeah, we'll just get up, leave about 6:15, hit the water, hopefully get on the water about 7:15 or so. That'll get everybody out of there. Well, we didn't know, and not many other people knew, but there was also a bass boat tournament that was going to be going out of there. They decided last minute that they were going to have something. Yeah, so it's just like, oh, this is cute. So, you know, luckily there wasn't very many of them, but it was quite busy ramp that morning. And so, you know, we all get launched and everything the night before. You know, a lot of them were new, like Tony and JC and Amy. They've never salmon fished before. They, you know, have never used a reel with a line counter on it or anything, you know, setting the drag and all that other stuff. So it was pretty enjoyable getting to, you know, kind of teach them those types of things too. And we always have this kind of thing when it comes to Tony. So he's got a nickname of like hogs only or toads only, because like Tony may not always catch a lot of bass, but when he catches fish, it's always like behemoth fish. like he caught a 23-inch bass on Newton. Yeah, it was Newton Lake. Like, I'm trying to remember how many years ago. Nobody's been able to beat that record in our club. And then we had another outing where me, him, and another buddy of ours, I think it might have been Alan, were at Banner, and me and Alan were tearing up the fish. Meanwhile, Tony hadn't caught anything. Then all of a sudden, ding, he had like a 21-inch bass. We're just like, what the heck, dude? He's just like, you know. And he's so like chill and laid back about everything. So like, that's the other thing that kind of throws me off. But we were talking. I was just like, I bet you Tony is gonna hook into not only like a giant salmon, but it'll probably be a male because the males are typically bigger than the females. Sure enough, it was like 9 o'clock or something like that, and he had hooked into one, and it was a big male. It was, I think, like a 26-pound male. It was big. And so, yeah, and this, of course, was the day of the tournament. So I'd come up on him because I wasn't sure if it was him that was fighting a fish or one of the guys who was competing in the tournament. And there was only 10 anglers who had signed up for their tournament too, which was surprising, but also kind of not surprising at the same time since, the bite had been pretty tough or whatnot. And so I'd come up on him. And I was like, what's he doing over there? And he sends a picture in our little group chat we had created. He's like, looky what I found. It shows, a picture of the salmon he just caught in his boat. And I'm just like, yeah, Tony. So, oh my gosh, it was so awesome. And he had his GoPro going. And I'm sure he'll probably post this too. But he had made like a little video. He's just like, all right, this is for you, Linda, for his wife. And, so he started singing the Here Fishy Fishy song. And we're just like, yeah, we've all been there before. And it wasn't even like, 2 minutes after he was doing that is when he got hooked up. And just, it was so awesome to see that. And then,
that's funny.
Yeah. And he showed us the video of him. He's just like, all right, Linda, this is for you. And then he's like, here, fishy, 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 fishy. We're just dying. Because, it's so true. I think we've all done that at some point in our life while we've been on the watter. So yeah, he
Absolutely.
caught that one. And then Chunson JC, he hooked into a nice one too. And yeah, 2 was all that was caught on Saturday. And so, I was kind of bummed. I was like, man, I hope, maybe Amy or Titus could get into one, and I hadn't hooked into anything either since. So, but, again, I was just more there just to have a good time. I was just out there salmon fishing. I was just glad to be out there. And so, we're getting packed up, getting ready to, check out this morning. We planned on getting there about the same time again and only fish until about noon or so. And it was a little bit chillier today than it was the last couple of days. And sure enough, JC hooks into another one. Not immediately off the bat, but like we were going around this like second bend and part of the river. And he just hooked into a real nice one, which was pretty awesome. And then it was pretty quiet for a while. And then I know somebody else, I think JC might have almost hooked up into another one again, but then it came off. And so it's getting to be about, gosh, I'm trying to think what time that first one was. People were starting to talk about, okay, maybe we'll, it was like 10:40. And so I was like, all right, got to get to a certain point to where, okay, start heading back. Cause like, it's a good amount of river and, you're only trolling like 2 miles an hour. So you may think, oh, well, you can get around pretty fast, but it takes you a long time to go quite a ways. And so 1040, sure enough, drag starts peeling on my rod. I was like, all right, I'm hooked into one. Landed my first one. And it's such a wild ride. And I was telling people in the chat, I was like, hey, make sure you're running your line this far back, use this lure, et cetera type of thing. And it starts getting to be about 11 o'clock or so, and a couple of the guys are like, all right, well, they hadn't had anything, they were going to start heading in, and it was exactly an hour later. So I was like, yep, I just made my last turn, and I'm going to start heading back as well. Literally like a minute after I sent that message, I hooked into one. So like I messaged in the chat, I was like, JK, just hooked up again. Hooked into my second one an hour later, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm done. Stick a fork in me. I'm done. So then we got in.
Nice.
And went to the fish station and whatnot, got it all cleaned up, and drove 5 hours home, came home and started getting stuff unpacked, and here we are.
So I wanted to show maybe is this the first fish? Let me see if I can add this in here. Is it gonna come up?
Yeah, that's the first fish from today.
So is this okay? Very cool, very cool. And then the other picture that you had sent is the both fish, right? Yep.
Yes.
Look at that.
Yeah, buddy.
So how much like total weight is that?
Oh God. You know what? I actually didn't weigh those two. I would say that both of those were probably at least 20. So both right there is, 40 pounds of fish. Plus the other, 20 some odd and 18 some odd. That I have a lot of fish in my cooler right now. A lot of fish in my cooler.
I'd say that's a pretty successful trip. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Heck,
that's crazy. Nice. Well, congrats. That sounds like an epic end to a very crazy season of travel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all coming to an end soon.
Makes you I mean I think you would think about how much that life, like the kind of like the Christine Fishers and those guys live almost year round.
Yeah.
And how the heck do you do that when you did it for a few weeks, and how exhausted that must feel. So
yeah, I mean, like, to live on the road is just, you gotta have just like a certain drive. You gotta have a certain patience, and it can take a toll, because I mean, if you don't necessarily like have a quote unquote like home in a sense, and you're just living on the road, it's, I can't even imagine what it would be like just to, live out of a car or RV or whatever it is, and just crash at friends' houses or wherever, I mean, it's awesome to see her that, she's finally got a place to call home now. And an awesome one at that, because I mean, I know she's in Tennessee and close to I want to say that she's maybe somewhat close to Chick or something like that. It's just like, oh God, if you could live anywhere, heck yeah, why not live close to Chickamauga? So yeah. But I know, like, coming home, it's just like, oh God, it's so good to be home. Like, I can, just kind of slow down and catch up on a lot of things. Whereas if you're living on the road and you have to make social media posts to live off of, because granted, people who are trying to make it may be living off of social media, whether it be YouTube or TikTok, whatever it may be. And I'm just like, I got home and I'm just like, God, I barely have the energy to do much more tonight. I mean, I can't even. It's a lot. It takes a lot of determination to be able to do that like full time and just be on the go.
Well, yeah, I can't even imagine, and I know, like just that wasn't even like the events you did were like you had a lot of preparation to do for the women's event, and you know, just like it wasn't even like you could go and kind of just fish. There was so much else that went into all of that that I think on top of it, it had to be, that just adds to it. So it wasn't even just as simple as just hitting the road with your fishing gear and making sure that, I mean, that's a chore in itself, getting all that lined up, but let
Yeah.
alone, and when you think about, the extra stuff that like Christine and them would have to do with, bringing something to edit your content and all that they do on the road. I just, yeah, it boggles the mind. And, people always, you hear them say, oh, you're lucky, you fish for a living, but it's really, there's so much more that goes into it, and they work harder than almost anybody else I know to live that life.
Yes.
So it's that, and the very unglamorous things that they go through definitely don't get published very often. That it is not the ideal life that everybody thinks it is just from looking at what they publish and stuff.
Yep. Yep. 100%. Like that just speaks so much truth in so many different ways. A lot of people take for granted, because I mean, it's like you said, seeing what people post on social media is just a glimpse into somebody's life. You never know what is going on behind the scenes. Like, you don't know what struggles they're facing. You don't know like what anybody's going through. I mean, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of dedication, and it's also keeping up with all of the changes and evolution in social media as it is. Because I mean, 5 years ago, there wasn't TikTok. I mean, YouTube's been around for quite a while, but and podcasts were maybe just now coming out. Other things have been changing, so you always have to be on in the know with all the evolutionary changes, because if you're not, and you're behind, you're definitely going to pay for it in the long run too. So yeah, but even more, and even more now too, it's just like, how do you keep your social media fresh, and making sure that you're not posting the same thing over again, or the same thing that everybody's doing type of thing, making sure that you're still staying true to you, but also appealing to you know your older audience and even your newer audiences as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that, like what you just said there about, staying true to yourself. There's a lot of YouTube or content creators that will do things that probably I would hope you know kind of go against things that they would normally do. Like, oh, watch this video of me getting kicked out of this private fishing pond, or something silly like that.
Right. Yeah. It's just like you don't have to do something like silly and absurd like that. That's no, 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 no. Like, don't be doing stupid stuff like that.
Well, very cool. So, definitely a lot of cool things, and I know you mentioned, before we started that you made a lot of good contacts. So I look forward to hearing, getting to meet some of those people on future shows. Um, in the meantime, I've been reaching out to a few folks. We have another river guest lined up shortly this week. Speaking of that, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our guest from last week, Randy Long. He graciously invited me on the river with him, and I got to see firsthand that he truly is the smallmouth whisperer. He kind of mentioned. He said, it might be kind of last minute when I call you, but when the time's right on the river, I'm going to reach out, and we're going to go out, and we're going to crush them. And now I promise to keep most of what we did a secret, but I can tell you we fished part of the Susquehanna River, and between him and I, we caught 152 smallmouth, and both of us caught 20s.
Oh,
I was going to share this picture. This is both of our 20s. So,
oh,
but I mean, out of those 152 fish, I would say maybe 12 or maybe a dozen were below 12 inches. Everything else was, 15, 16, 18. I lost count of how many 18 and 19-inch fish we caught.
oh my God.
I hadn't caught my 20 yet this year, and he kept saying, "Well, we're gonna catch you a 20 today." And so I've heard people, mention about catching 100 fish days on the river, and I always, never believed them, but having experienced it, it was pretty amazing. I mean, I my thumbs have just, not really fully recovered. I had like just I'd never had bass thumb that bad on both thumbs, but man, it was just an epic day. And so I wanted to give a shout out to him. And if you guys are interested, like I said, he's just getting his guiding business or his kind of guiding stuff up and running. But if you want to, catch big ones now, he said, that he doesn't always have 150 fish days. I think he said that was his best day on his boat this year, him and
Oh,
I. His next previous best was 150 or 142, and it was funny. We hit 138, and it was starting to get pretty dark. And he's like, "Well, I want to beat 142, because that's my best this year." And we just happened to find one more spot that just held a ton of fish, and it was again just boom, 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 boom. And he carries a little fish or a counter in his pocket, so he was just clicking them off all day long. And we ended up with 152, and it was just an epic day. So if anybody is interested, go back and listen to the show from last week and check out the show notes for Randy's information, because he definitely knows what he's doing. If you're looking for someone to take you out on the river, definitely was a fun trip, and much thanks to him for sharing that with me. So
awesome. I'm jealous of that, dude. Like 120 fish like that.
152.
Or I'm sorry, yeah, 152. Like that. Oh my God. Like that that just it sounds like just the perfect day, and especially for you, I mean, you needed it more than anything, and was so glad that you could have an awesome day like that. It just, oh my gosh, that is
Yeah,
so
that
amazing.
easily was the best day of fishing I've ever had in my life. I don't even know what my last big or total best total was, but I would guess somewhere in the 30s or 40s maybe. So
Wow.
to make a jump like that, and the quality of fish was just crazy too.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just nuts. It was funny because by the end we were kind of spoiled. Oh, that's just an 18, Yeah.
Right. Just this measly 18.
He's
Meh.
like, "You don't wanna even measure that?" He's like, "Nah, it's not a 20." So
Nice.
so I almost wish, one of my price for admission was I had to join Smalley Games for this
Ah,
year, to include that 20 in the Pennsylvania's count, because he's
uh-huh.
really trying to make sure Pennsylvania wins the, state, total for he's almost doing it single-handedly. I think Pennsylvania
Jeez.
has like I don't know how many. I'm gonna guess 50, and I bet you he has 35 of those
Oh my
fish.
gosh.
Yeah, so
That's awesome.
it's crazy. He definitely knows what he's doing and where to find the big ones. So
Awesome.
very cool. But yeah, so I know you got to be exhausted. So I figured
A little bit. Yeah.
it would be good just to catch up with you and see how your whirlwind fishing tour went. And so thanks for sharing with that with us. And guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Bass Fishing for Noobs. And we will catch you. We're going to record our next show in just a couple of days. And so we will see you guys back then. But until then, thanks again for watching. This has been the Bass Fishing for Noobs channel here on the Paddle and Fin podcast, where we bring you the techniques, the tricks, and the tips to help you rip more lips. You guys have a good night. Oh, wait, Susie, do you want to shout out your sponsors or anything? I don't know. We might as well give you a chance.
Gosh, sure. Actually, there was something big that I did forget to mention that happened too at the women's event. So it hasn't necessarily been like advertised or anything in a sense, but I was kind of sort of voted to be like quote unquote like on the board now. So like I help manage officially the Women's Fishing Federation.
Awesome.
So.
Wow. Congrats.
yeah, pretty awesome stuff. But yeah, sponsor wise, Dubro Fishing, Bassett Baits, Hobie Fishing, Kistler Rods, Catch, Omnia Fishing. I just became an ambassador on there. Kind of fun to write fishing reports on there and everything. And of course, Paddle and Fin.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, again, thanks for sharing. And guys, we will catch you next week for another episode. So tune in. All right, everybody, you guys have a good night.
Good night.